I know the face test isn't an accurate way to judge the winner of a fight, the outcome, but sometimes it's dead on. Look at these faces. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen here, man. I just watched the classic on ESPN. Shout out to everybody who uses my link to order ESPN and the Disney bundle with Hulu. It was a very fun fight. I'm going to give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Boxingego Navarrate versus Valdez full fight recap and breakdown. I'm going to be truthful like I always am in my videos. So very fun fight. Congratulations. Emmanuel Navarrate defeated Oscar Valdez in what was a barn burner classic fight. They built it up as, a Mexican showdown. I will say both fighters showed heart. Both fighters had to get through some various things, which I'll talk about in this video. It was Emmanuel Navarrate who came through, got the unanimous decision. There were no knockdowns, so it was an easy fight to score for me, which we'll get into. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a great day of boxing. I watched the Joshua Helenius knockout. I made a video about that. Make sure you guys check it. Now, about this fight, main event. The rest of the card wasn't that good, so I'm just going to focus on the main event. The main event definitely delivered. You had two guys who were trying to impose their will and offensive minded. But early on in this fight, I just felt that Navarrate was a lot more fluid with his offense. Like he seemed to me that he was more comfortable in his style versus Valdez almost seemed like throughout the fight, he didn't know who he was. Are you like more of a boxer puncher? Are you this aggressive guy? It looked like he was trying different things, and possibly because Navarrate pulled that out of him and, made him have to go to plan B and C throughout the fight. But early rounds, it was really easy to score. Valdez really wasn't doing too much of anything. Yeah, he was loading up with the shots. He was telegraphing shots and he was grunting with the shots, but all that settled down. Like, you have to understand boxing. You can do something like grunt with every punch, but that takes a lot of energy. And the way his eyes started to break up, it was like, by the second half of the fight, you didn't really hear him grunting as much and loading up. He was just trying to pick his spots. But I think Navarrate started off very well and was doing so much good work. He was kind of confused. Like, don't get it twisted. It was a fun fight, as I mentioned. It was quasi-competitive, but this was really a fight that wasn't hard to score. Now, I give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good was it was a great fight. It was a classic fight. And let me talk about the bad and the ugly. The bad and the ugly is ESPN commentary was horrible. It was absolutely terrible. I have no clue why they would get rid of a guy like Andre Ward and keep the remaining people and not have a talk to him or, improve the programming. I found it very hard to get through. And some people say, oh, why don't you just mute it? I can't, because I like to hear the sound of the punches in the crowd and if something was said in the corner. So for me to completely mute it, it ruins the experience for me. So I dealt with it. But the ESPN commentary, make sure you guys subscribe, was very hard for me to get through. It just wasn't accurate. They seem insanely biased for Valdez throughout the fight. And to me, it was a fun fight, but there's some fights that are fun fights where it's somewhat competitive, but you can tell who's winning. I've also seen fights, there's other types of fights that are fun fights, and it's so much craziness going on, you really couldn't tell who was winning. And I didn't feel like this fight had that much. I think both fighters were trying. Both fighters were trying to make it their own. And then if Valdez would land a good shot, then Navarrate would jump on him and try to get and steal the playback. So there were some seesaw moments, but in its totality, I don't think it was a hard fight to score. Like, you could tell who won round 5 or round 3. You can see who won that moment. Even if there was some seesaw action, it was pretty easy to decipher. And I think the CompuBox support what I'm saying. Like, Navarrate threw an ungodly amount of punches in this bout. So despite some seesaw moments. This wasn't a particularly tough fight to score. It's kind of easy to score. You could tell who was controlling it. 3-minute rounds, who was doing the better work. Now, again, there was some valiant effort from Oscar Valdez, but he was ultimately losing. The awkwardness, the quickness, and, the left uppy and the angles from Navarrate was giving him mad problems. And you can't always use CompuBox. You can't always use things like the face test, as I mentioned earlier in this video. But at the same time, sometimes those things, CompuBox, are dead on. And you look at the CompuBox, Navarrate landed and threw an ungodly amount of punches. So he was clearly the busier fighter. So with no knockdowns and Navarrate having a great poker face and not being visibly so hurt where he did anything, his legs buckled or anything crazy, and then the wear and tear and the markings of Valdez's face, I think you put these things together and you watch it, it's easy to come to a conclusion of who's winning. Despite whatever Navarrate, all the good work he was doing, it was like the ESPN commentators were jumping for joy anytime Valdez did anything. He could cough, burp, fart, throw a left hook, and they went, Valdez out. And I'm like, what are we talking about? I'm watching Navarrate piece up Valdez throughout most of this round, and then he loaded up with a left hook or partially landed it, and Tim Bradley and ESPN commentators are going crazy. So that made the fight as classic as it was. That element, the ESPN commentary, they were all in on Valdez, and they seem insanely biased for Valdez. My thing is this: when it comes to commentary, I know I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. But for other commentators, I feel like you don't have to force feed us what you want to be the case or who you want to win. Just tell us what you're seeing. And for me, I thought Navarrate started off very strong. Even the unofficial scorecard by Mark Kriegel had Valdez winning like one round. And it was that type of fight. Valdez definitely has heart, but I told you many times on my channel, I'm not going to overly praise and glorify having heart and toughness. That's cool, but this is the sweet science. This is a square circle. This is boxing. So at the end of the day, there's journeymen who are insanely tough. No one's really overly praising that. There's guys, they have 100 fights and they've only been knocked out 6 times and they have a couple wins. So you have 100 plus fights and you only got stopped 6 times. You have heart and you're tough because 100 plus bouts and that many losses. If you have 100 losses and only 6 of them came by knockout, that shows me that that person's pretty durable and pretty tough to have that many losses. But it's about winning. It's about gamesmanship and strategy. And Navarrate, he seemed the more fluid. He seemed like he did what he wanted. There was midway through the fight, he stopped and there was a hesitance to throw the right hand, kind of similar to Gervonta Davis versus Esau Pitbull Cruz, where Tank Davis fought the second half of the fight one-handed. Jermall Charlo versus Montiel, where he had a bad hand injury and his hand was like bruised up from hitting Montiel flush and not stopping him. Same thing happened here with Navarrate. Navarrate, from punching up Valdez, and he might have a hard head or skull or whatever, it bruised his knuckles or, dislocated or whatever happened to his hand, and then he was hesitant to throw. But Valdez showing some heart and grit and trying to get something done and turn it around. He was going for it and still kind of loading up. It was kind of one-dimensional, if you will. His approach. There's little subtleties that he did, like slow down and land a shot, but he was retreating. He was just losing the fight, but he was trying. So I give him credit for trying. But it was really crazy to hear ESPN, and no matter what, they're trying to tell me that this is a excellent fight for Valdez, or almost making it seem like somehow the scorecards could be all over the place. When they announced the scoring at the end of the fight, it was a unanimous decision, and the ESPN commentators spent so much time on the telecast telling you that this was, up for grabs, so to speak, and Valdez was doing all this stuff, and they were like, oh, the scorecards are kind of wide. No, you just try to force feed us that this fight wasn't as apparent as it truly was. This was apparent that Navarrate won, point blank, period. And I think the indications from his face tell a lot as well. Navarrate had a better game plan, a better poker face, better movement. Valdez was telegraphing, loading up his shots. And some of those moments, made it fun, but not enough to win. I mean, Valdez probably won like 3 or 4 rounds. That's the type of fight it was. But just because he was trying and he didn't get knocked out and his eye was going away, I think people are glorifying it because they just love to see that Rocky Balboa, Creed type of thing, where it's almost like a movie you're watching and you get to see the resilience. And again, that's cool, but that's not going to win you the fight. You look at Emmanuel Navarrate's face, it looked like he ready to go to the club. It looks like he wasn't even in a fight. Valdez's eye is bleeding. And the other thing I thought was distasteful from ESPN commentators, why this man just gave us a classic, just by trying. His eye is swollen up and he's profusely bleeding out of his eye, which doesn't look good. And they're talking about, oh, we should do a trilogy. I mean, he needs to rest. I'm no doctor, but to me, Valdez, he gave it his all, took another bad loss, the Shakur Stevenson loss, and then now this was a bad loss. You try for a title. He's fighting Quiggs and his jaw's getting broken. I mean, they keep raving about his defense, but his jaw was broken in the Quigg fight. Shakur dropped him and won every round. And then now he's fighting Navarrate, who moved up, and he's supposed to be this powerhouse. And we're not seeing these like bare chelt type of performances. But meanwhile, his eye is profusely bleeding, clearly looks damaged, and they're talking about moving along and doing a trilogy. The other bad and ugly is for Eddie Reynoso. I really didn't hear any great corner advice. I was trying to see what he was saying, and he was trying to put some urgency in his fighter, but I just didn't hear any like legendary training advice to pull his fighter out the pits in a fight. To me, he was clearly losing. Now, I don't think the fight was all too close. It was fun because Valdez was trying, but I could clearly see who was winning. But Valdez, don't quote me on this. I want to say rounds 10. It was 10 or 11. And then also the 12th round, he was just getting off on Valdez. And to me, that was, even if you had the fight close, losing championship rounds in a fight that you think is close is just the nail in the coffin. Boom, shakalaka. And Valdez couldn't afford to lose that round 10 or 11 and round 12. And, what are the judges looking at? They're looking at this man's face. It's cool that you're tough, but your face is showing us that you've been through the meat grinder. I also think ESPN should have spent more time, instead of like jocking Valdez, they should have spent a lot more time from the sweet science aspect, watching a guy like Navarrate do what he's done to other fighters to a former champion, and then deal with the adversity of having a broken, fractured, or bruised hand. And it looked like at one point he was not even going to be willing to throw it because he might have been in that much pain. So when Valdez was trying to sit down and load up on his shots, he just started letting it go. And to me, that, like me personally, I got to give that a lot more praise than Valdez taking punches on his face and being tough and showing heart. The showing heart, I've seen that so many times from people. I'm more impressed with the guy who has a broken hand, fractured hand, and fought this big puncher who's loading up on every shot, getting out the way, great poker face looks clean at the end of the fight. I think some people glorify and focus on the wrong things in boxing. That's my full fight breakdown, the realest breakdown. Subscribe for more breakdowns and boxing news. I got you guys covered. Again, fun fight. Valdez, he was game, but at the same time, you're at home and your face is looking like, the Goonies fighting this dude. And somehow ESPN was trying to spin it as if he was doing a lot. But it was just a fun fight because there was back and forth action. Really easy for me to determine who was going to win unless it was a robbery. And at least the right man won. I'm the best in the business. Drop your thoughts in the comment section and I'm out. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxingego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.